Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University. The Utah Jazz select Darius Baisley from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triple Double Podcast. My name is Corey Albertson. We've got Jason Mora of 270 Hoops with us as our producer, and with the season starting officially this week, the high school basketball season in Ohio, that is, we've got a special guest. Today's guest is Bennie Carroll. Bennie, what's going on, brother?
Just another day in paradise here, my man.
Paradise in the Wilmington, Ohio area.
Yes, sir. Sun is shining brightly in Wilmington, Ohio.
There you go. Bennie Carroll has decades of experience in coaching boys and girls high school basketball in Ohio. Has been at Wilmington High School, Georgetown High School, Blanchester High School. And what we're going to be talking about today is since 2014, Bennie has been the host of the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic, which is held in the very beginning of the high school season in Ohio. Has featured teams from Cincinnati area, Dayton area, towards the southeast part of Ohio, and teams from different areas as well. This year's Ohio Valley Hoops Classic will be played this weekend, which will be Friday and Saturday, the 29th and 30th of November at Mason Arena outside of Cincinnati. And in addition to having Bennie on today, we at Triple Double Prospects are happy to be a part of the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic this year, Bennie.
Hey, man, I appreciate the first part there. It's just a very politically correct way of saying I'm very old, so appreciate that, and appreciate all the help you've been, Corey, with this event. We've had a good time, and looking forward to it, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not that old, but we do. If we're gonna have you on the podcast, we need to start off by talking about your coaching days. And back in your coaching days, you are famous, at least in my memory, for cutting an NBA player at Georgetown High School.
I was in a pretty good mood. Now you bring that up, but actually, the truth of that story, and I did not cut that player. Brian Grant is who you're talking about, and we just kind of had a disagreement, and Brian decided not to play that year. I was a young coach at the time, and I was probably did not handle the situation great, and Brian decided he didn't want to play, didn't want to do what we were asking. But the good part of that story is that Brian he didn't play that. It was his junior year, and he didn't play the entire year, but he really handled that well, and it probably helped him. I actually had Brian in class that year, and he was never disrespectful to me. And so forth, and he came back the next year and played. I actually accepted a job at my alma mater, West Carter High School in Kentucky, so I didn't get to coach Brian as a senior. But, we've stayed in contact a little bit since then, and like I say, Brian, he turned it around and obviously had a great career in the NBA, so it all worked out well.
Well, there you go. You certainly did a lot of coaching, and when you did your coaching, what people know Wilmington around the state of Ohio, especially because of their success, recently with the Cumberlands. But even before then, Wilmington's been a good basketball program, but people might not know Georgetown and Blanchester, where you've also coached, and some other places. So you've been kind of a small town guy, and in 2014, you decided to start an event, which is the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic, and you decided to start that event off in Wilmington, where you live. So what prompted you to start that event, and what made you start off choosing Wilmington?
Well, it's kind of a long answer, I guess, but I'm just kind of a basketball junkie like yourself, and probably anybody that happens to be listening to this podcast. So I was here at Wilmington in the 1990s, and I used to go, and still do, all over the place to watch basketball events. And I always kind of thought, Wilmington would be a pretty decent location, kind of with its proximity to Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus. So I'd retired from coaching, and just the Clinton County tournament used to be held at Wilmington College every year with the 4 Clinton County teams, and they disbanded that, I think, in about 2012 or something like that. So me and a couple other guys kind of thought, well, it might be a fun time to try to do this. So we approached the folks at Wilmington College, and they were agreeable, and we just kind of did it. To be honest with you, I just kind of wanted to see if we could do it and put together a high class, basketball event right here at Wilmington. So that's kind of how it started.
The first time you had the event, I remember, it wasn't an event that a lot of people knew about, but you had some big time games where you had a really good Lorraine team play a really good Newark team. You had Pickerington Central go to overtime against Dayton Dunbar, the first varsity game that Eric Kruger was ever to coach. And you guys started off with a bang and got a lot of teams in there. And I think a lot of that stems from unlike some other event operators, you go and you check out a lot of events during the season, and you just mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, I just enjoy watching basketball. I mean, you can probably find me a lot of Friday nights, Tuesday nights, or whatever, in a gym somewhere watching a game. And we decided, as you mentioned, I'm an ex-high school coach, so we don't have the prep schools, the Oak Hills and Findlay Preps and those guys. We decided just to make it member schools of state athletic associations, and we wanted to get the best teams and best players we could get. So, we just kind of did it the grassroots way. I just started calling coaches and inviting them and stuff, and, we got, like you say, a very good group that first year.
Well, I looked at the website today as I was preparing, and I've been to the event most years. I think I missed one year. And looking at the event you've already got, and just having 5 years before this, over 5 events, you got 3 NBA players, and Jaren Jackson Jr., Jackson Hayes, and Darius Baisley. And then I counted another 16 guys who have played high major Division I basketball. And I didn't write down how many guys have gone on to play some level of Division I basketball. But, in going with these member schools, not only have you had some good teams and good matchups, but you've had some high-level prospects as well.
Oh, we've had some great players, like you said. I think the number is actually around 19 or 20 that's played in the Power 5 conferences, and I think there's 51, I believe, overall that's played at some level of Division I. And we may have missed a couple, but I know at least that many. And this year I think I counted there's already 19 guys in this year's event that have either committed or have offers from Division I programs. So, yeah, I mean, if people are basketball fans at all and they just enjoy seeing some good teams and high-level players, it's well worth it to come out and watch some games, I think.
Well, let's talk about venue then. So, you started off at Wilmington and eventually moved on to Hillsborough, and Hillsborough is another area that some people might not be familiar with, east of Cincinnati. There's some good basketball there. There's some basketball fans there. But in watching the event there, the vibe that I got is the people in Hillsborough want to see Hillsborough play Blanchester. They want to see Wilmington play Washington Courthouse. They want to see the local teams, and they're maybe not as interested as seeing the Indianapolis teams or the Mollers or the Lakota East or Tafts of the world. And, Hillsborough, you've got some good games, but, now you're moving over to Mason.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. And at Wilmington College, really the biggest thing there, we really like that venue. But Wilmington College, they have boys team and girls team, and almost every year on the weekend that we wanted to do the event, they had a game, either a boys game or a girls game at home. So, they didn't really want to move their games to host the event, which we understood. And then, like you say, Hillsborough, the people over there at both Southern State and Hillsborough were great. And there's a few guys over there that love the games, but in general, I think just demographics. We had a chance to come to Mason. It's a little closer to Cincinnati. It's just off the interstate. So when, you get teams, you talk to a team from like Indianapolis or Louisville or Lexington, they're a whole lot more likely to say yes to come to Mason than to come to Hillsborough, So really it was just the location is, I think, better to to have an event of this type. So we'll see how it goes, but we think that's the case at least.
Well, Mason is great for, we're going to talk about some matchups here in a minute. And you got a few of the inner city Cincinnati schools, and they're all used to going to Mason every year in March because that's where they play the Division II sectional tournament in Cincinnati. So you always have great games there, and they're always extremely well attended. You look at the suburban schools, most of them play against Mason or know where it is. Catholic schools, you got kids from those areas. So, very, very easy to get to. And then top-notch facility. And when you look at some of these places in Cincinnati that are starting to build arenas like the Hamiltons of the world and, the Lakota schools both have them. Mason has a first-rate facility.
Yes, you're exactly right. I would say as far as high school venues in the state of Ohio, Mason's got to be in the top, 10 or so, I would think, or maybe even more than that. There's not many arenas in the state, just high school venues that are better. So that part's great. Of course, Coach Scott Stemple, who's the athletic director there, I've known Scott since he was actually the college coach here at Wilmington, and when I was coaching high school, so we've known each other for a long time. So it's really good to work with him, and Greg Richards, the coach there, who I've also known for many years. And then, just as you mentioned, the proximity there. Somebody from Cincinnati, downtown Cincinnati, wants to come out to Mason. It's, 20, 25-minute drive as opposed to an hour drive to Hillsborough. So it's easy access right off the interstate pretty much. No reason not to come other than, I guess, watching the Ohio State Buckeyes on TV Saturday. So we'll see. I've been telling everybody to turn your tape thing, DVR or whatever you call it, on and watch it that way.
Well, you asked how many people listen to this beforehand. I told you I have no idea. That's a Jason question, but I do know that a lot of people who listen to this are guys who are in basketball, whether they're high school coaches. We have a lot of college coaches listen, AAU guys listen, scouting media guys listen, and I've been working hard, and you've been working hard on trying to make sure that those guys attend the event this weekend. And in doing that, I wanted to talk about one thing I know about the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic, and Chaz Wolf has helped spread the word on this, is you got some big-time hospitality rooms. So, give the media and college coaches listening a preview here.
Well, it might not be quite that luxurious this year. We got La Rosa's Pizza, and we'll have some chili dogs, and we'll have some pulled pork barbecue and a few things. So, if you show up, we should be able to feed you pretty decently. I'm not going to promise a full-course buffet, though.
Are you going to share a chili dog with Chaz Wolf if he comes down?
Hey, man, 2 for Big Chaz if he's in attendance.
There you go. Well, let's wrap up here. Let's talk about the event. And in the event, the last couple of years you've had some of the smaller teams at Hillsborough, the local teams, and they got an opportunity. We've seen some really good players. We saw Braden Sipple from Blanchester last year, Samari Curtis from Xenia, Deontay Miles from Walton Verona, Kentucky. Some of the schools that, if they don't always have a great player, don't get to play in events like this. But this year at Mason, we've got a lot of the big boys of high school basketball in Ohio, as well as the Indianapolis area. And starting off on Friday, the 29th, we've got a full slate of games. But when I talk to people about the event, they tell me they're really, really excited for the last 3 games. And that is Lakota East versus Taft, Moeller versus Cleveland Lutheran East, and Mason versus Carmel out of Indianapolis. So starting off with Lakota East versus Taft, what's exciting about that matchup?
Well, first of all, you got 2 really good teams. I know in your rankings, I think you got Taft ranked number 1 in the state in D3, and you got Lakota East ranked, I think, fairly highly. So, obviously it's 2 good teams. You got some great individual players. It'll be Rayvon Griffith's debut as a high school player, and he's, to all basketball fans, he's a pretty well-known name, I think. One of the top, I don't know how high he's ranked in the nation right now, but he's a very highly rated freshman, I know. And, Taft has some other guys that are very good, Nakai Smith and Of course, Lakota East, I think Nate Johnson of Lakota East is one of the more under-the-radar guys, and I really like him, man. He's strong and athletic and can play. So that should be just a fun game, really.
Yeah, you've got, you said Nate Johnson, definitely, I think, one of the top 10 juniors in Ohio. Clint Atkins does a great job. They've got a really well-disciplined, well-rounded team. Outside of Moeller and Cincinnati, I would say they might be the most disciplined program right now in 2019. And they're going to play against Taft, who's going to run up and down. They've got a lot of tremendous athleticism. They've got a lot of talent. So that's definitely going to be a fun game to watch, and one of the ones people are most excited for. And then next game, Moeller, Lutheran East, you got the two-time defending state champions, played in 3 straight Division I state title games versus a Lutheran East team who's been down to state just about every year recently as well.
Yeah, well, you got 2 teams that's been in the state final, I think, 3 years in a row. But, of course, Moeller's won it 2, and I think Lutheran East won 1, lost 2. But, Moeller, man, just being very honest, Moeller's Moeller. And I don't know that anybody in the state really on a consistent basis could challenge Moeller. They got some guys that can play, and they got size, and they're well coached. So, that's a lethal combination. Now, Lutheran East is probably one of the few teams that at least athletically have a little bit of size and athleticism that can match up. Lutheran East got a couple kids that are D1, players. One kid's already signed, Nehemiah Benson. I think he signed with Ryder, I believe. And then Jalen Billingsley, 6'8" player. He's got offers from several places. And then they got a couple other kids that are probably going to be D1 players before it's over. So, Lutheran East, the teams we have in the event, and really the teams in the state, they probably have the athletes to give Moeller, a little bit of a challenge. And they wanted to play Moeller. They requested that game, and Coach Kramer at Moeller was, he thought that would be a good matchup for them. So I think that game may be a little better than people expect, although in truth, Moeller is just very, very good. I was able to watch them practice the other night, and man, they are good, and they practice hard, and just a fun team to watch. One misconception, I will say, a lot of people think Moeller is just a slow it down, methodical team. That's not true at all, man. They actually try to get up and down the floor a little. They're going to full court press a little. So they're not exactly what some people think. They play at a faster pace than most realize, and they're pretty fun to watch.
I think if Lutheran East is going to stay in the game, the fact that they have 2 Division I level big guys, and you said Nehemiah Benson and then Jalen Billingsley, probably top 5 talent in Ohio's junior class. They've got the size to hang around with Moeller, which doesn't always happen, and that might be the game. There might be 8 future Division I players in that game, which I would guarantee you is the most of any game you're going to see in the state of Ohio this weekend for sure, and almost all year probably. So last game. Absolutely. So the last game, people aren't going to be as familiar with this matchup, Mason versus Carmel. And before I let you do your spiel on Mason, I told Coach Greg Richards there, who's, helping host the event, and I said, every year myself, I look at some of the talent on the court, and I underrate Mason, and every year they win 17, 18 ball games. And, they've got a tough matchup against Carmel, who's defending big school state champions in Indiana, and nobody thinks Mason's going to be able to win, but they're going to be right there at the end of the game like they always are, in my opinion.
I think honestly, and of course maybe I'm a little biased because Greg and I are good friends, but the best kept secret, man, in maybe all of Ohio, but certainly in Southwest Ohio. If you look at their record the last 5 or 6 years, I looked the other day. I think it's something like 95 and 18 or something. And like you say, they just win. They haven't been able to get past Moeller and win, a district championship or whatever. So that's kind of maybe the thing that keeps people from knowing about them. But year in and year out, they are going to compete, and they play great defense, and Greg has a system. And in all honesty, they have a little bit better talent than people realize. I've been able to watch them practice a few times, already this year. and they're not void of talent. They got the Cooper kid is about 6'6", and he's a nice player, and you got a big 6'8" kid that actually didn't play a lot last year. He played mostly JV ball, but he's starting to play better. Shamil Abid, I believe, is his name. So I mean, Mason and Carmel will be a good game. I think it'll be a good matchup. Carmel lost some guys from last year, and obviously they reload. They don't rebuild, but I believe that game will be a close game. It's the two largest schools in their respective states, actually. I think Mason's the largest school in Ohio, and Carmel's the largest school in Indiana. So they're kind of like mirror images in a lot of ways.
A lot of similar demographics in terms of neighborhood and, proximity to a major city, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, Mason, very well organized coach, disciplined, and don't have maybe the one high-end talent guy that, some of these other top teams have, but top to bottom, they're right there. Mitchell Greer is a senior wing who came on a lot at the end of last year, and I think is going to have a really, really big year, and they'll certainly need him if they're going to take on Carmel. So those are the 3 games Friday. Again, there's games before that. It's a very, very good day of basketball, but those are the 3 games Friday people are really looking forward to. Now, Saturday, same thing. You've got some early morning games, some really fun matchups, some high-scoring games I think we're going to see. But you then have the final 4 games of the day there, and you've got a triple header of City League teams, and then you've got a really kind of what I'm calling a heavyweight fight in the last game. And let me run through those real quick, and then we'll break them down. You've got Dayton Thurgood Marshall out of the Dayton Public League versus Worthington Christian. You've got Hughes out of Cincinnati versus London High School. Cincinnati Woodward versus Jeffersonville out of Indiana, the Louisville area, and then Hilliard Bradley versus Hamilton Southeastern out of Indianapolis. So let's start with Dayton Thurgood Marshall, who I do have ranked as one of my top 5 or 10 teams. I don't know the exact number off the top of the head in Division II in Ohio, versus Worthington Christian, who everybody, especially somebody like Jason who's on here and Zach Fleer would say is one of the best teams in Columbus regardless of division, Benny.
Yeah, that's a really good matchup. Now, on a bad note, Worthington Christian does have a couple kids injured right now, and they're questionable for the game. Tyler Kinberg, I think, and Kobe Buford, and those are 2 of his better players, so they may or may not play, and that could affect it. But beyond that is a good matchup. That's 2 teams. The Thurgood Marshall is really good, but they don't have a lot of size. And so that, Worthington Christian's not real huge either, but they both like to get up and down the floor. Just for entertainment value, that might be one of the better games of the day. Those 2 teams they'll push it, both of them, and there's not going to be any long possessions on offense, I don't think, so it should be a fun game. And there's, as you said, some high-level players. I know you like Anthony McComb from Thurgood Marshall, and I do too. So that should be a fun one to watch.
Anthony McComb from Thurgood Marshall, Chance Emerson from Thurgood Marshall, both juniors, and Makai Elmore, one of the better sophomores in the Dayton area. And then you've got DJ Moore from Worthington Christian, who is one of the best sophomores in the state of Ohio and definitely one of the best sophomores in the city of Columbus. So that'll be a fun one. That's followed by Cincinnati Hughes versus London High School.
Yeah, that's a game there. That's probably an under-the-radar game. I'll let you know a little bit more about Hughes probably than I do, but the London team is probably a whole lot better than most folks know. A kid named Trey Woodyard, I mean, I know you know about him, obviously, but he's kind of blowing up a little bit. I think he's growing a couple of inches since last year. He's basically a point guard, but he's about 6'7" now, I believe, 6'6" or 6'7", and he's being looked at by some pretty good schools right now, and they have a couple other guys that are pretty talented. It's kind of a homecoming game. Zach Brown, their coach, is a Mason alumni. He played for Richards. So, and then, like I say, Hughes, I know they lost. Hughes was expecting, a lot more this year. They thought they might have McMillan and Griffith both, but neither one of those guys are there. But I think they still have, some other guys that can do some things.
Well, you said if you're a betting man and you wanted to bet on who's going to be the leading scorer in this event, you might want to bet on Trey Woodyard because he's going to put some points on the board, and Hughes is probably going to play up tempo. Coach Wine always likes to play guard oriented and has had a lot of success at Hughes, and he did lose some guys, but Cameron McKenzie averaged almost 20 points a game last year, and he's back again as a junior this year, and he might go shot for shot with Woodyard. He's a really, really good high school guard over at Cincinnati Hughes, and I'm excited for that game. And then the last two games, real heavyweight fights. Cincinnati Woodward, Paul McMillan the fourth is there. I do have them in the top 5 in the state in Division II for what that's worth, versus a Jeffersonville, Indiana team who is loaded. But Benny, outside of you're gonna have to tell people, what can we expect from Jeffersonville? They're good.
Well, first of all, I'm calling this the Corey Albertson game. This is the game that this is the game that you lobbied for, and Coach Paul McMillan wanted this game too. So we'll call that your game. But Jeffersonville is loaded too. I did get to see them play once last year, and they got all 5 starters back. They got a kid named Trey Coleman that I think he just recently signed with University of Nevada, about a 6'6" senior, nice player. They got a young man named Will Lovings Watts, who's a sophomore, and I talked to the coach the other day, and he said Watts is getting looks from Louisville, Indiana, places like that. So I think he's probably the true star on that team, even though he's a sophomore. And then they got some other dudes that I think their point guard's going to Wisconsin, Green Bay, and so, they've got some guys. They can play, and they'll get up and down the floor a little bit too. So, them going against McMillan and the Woodward kids, that should be a fun, entertaining basketball game.
Well, I got to see Woodward. They hosted a preview this past weekend, and they beat Cincinnati Princeton in a very close game. And, unfortunately, the preview games you're only allowed to play half. Would have loved to see 32 minutes of that. But Woodward really impressed me in that they not only do they have McMillan, but they've got a lot of guys around him who are good, and they're going to need that. They're going to need a team to beat Jeffersonville, and I've had an opportunity to watch Trey Coleman a lot. Played AAU with Nakai Smith from Taft, and with Indiana Elite, and had a great career there with them on a major travel circuit. And I have not seen Loving, but I have talked to some scouts in Indiana, including my friend Brian Stowe, and he believes that kid is, one of the absolute best players in the state of Indiana in that sophomore class. So be great for basketball fans to get a look at him, a kid who, probably will end up in the top 50 to 100 in the country in the rankings. And then the nightcap of the game, we've got a big one with Hilliard Bradley, always one of the perennial powers in Ohio, versus Hamilton Southeastern, always very, very good team. Full of Division I talent every year out of the Indianapolis area.
Yeah, I hope the fans that are there for the previous games will stick around and watch this game, because honestly, this might be one of the better games in the event. 2 well-coached teams, first of all. I mean, Brett Norris there at Hilliard Bradley, man, his teams play so hard. I really enjoy watching them play, and he's got some talent with Loco that I think's going to one of the Ivy League schools, I believe. He's already signed with
Princeton.
Princeton, yeah. And so he's got some talent. Mayfield is a kid that's going to play football at Michigan State, but he's a load. And then of course Hamilton Southeastern, they got a couple guys in the NBA from their school right now, and they've got maybe one of the more interesting kids I'm looking forward to seeing. I think his name's Major Maybach, and I might be butchering that name, but he's 7'1". He's a kid that came here as a freshman from South Sudan, I believe, and he was real skinny. I remember they actually played in our event one year over at Southern State, and he was a freshman, and man, he looked like he weighed about 150 pounds, but I think he's put on about 65, 70 pounds, and he's a pretty highly regarded kid. Now, I do think he signed, I believe, with Cleveland State the other day. But, at 7'1", that'll be an interesting dynamic there to see how Hilliard Bradley combats that. But that should be, a heavyweight game, really, between 2 teams that are very capable being in the state Final Four in their states, both of them.
Absolutely. And like you said, Owaco and the rest of the kids at Bradley, you've definitely got a lot of experience there, big game experience. You got some guys on Bradley that can shoot the ball. Hamilton Southeastern's going to have more size. Majak is a kid. He also played with Trey Coleman and the Kai Smith on that Indiana elite team. I've seen him a lot. If anybody's a fan of Cleveland State, and you're in the Mason area, you'll get to see him. He'll be at Cleveland State the next 4 years. And, that's going to conclude a really good event. We talked about 7 games there, Benny, but, you got 2 full days of basketball at Mason on Friday and Saturday, and I'm certainly looking forward to it, and I feel blessed to be a part of it.
Just it's kind of interesting. I watched Wilmington High School scrimmage the other day. I mean, they're going to be kind of fun. That for the very first game, Wilmington and Licking Heights, those 2 teams probably in terms of talent and so forth, maybe not quite up to what some of the other teams, but man, it might be a fun game. The new coach at Wilmington there, Matt Kramer, they're getting it up and down and shooting a lot of threes. I mean, they were fun to watch the other day. So, that game will be an entertaining game, I believe. So, yeah, it should be good. I might mention, too, Corey, I know some people have asked, ticket prices for the game are $10, and that's good for the whole day. So, it's a pretty good bargain, really, if anybody wants to come and watch multiple games. Full concession stand there at Mason and all that, so plenty of parking. So it's the venue, like you said earlier, is very good. And I think the weather's not going to be too cold, so no reason for folks not to come out and watch some good basketball.
There you go. Football season's over. It's basketball season. Get your butt in the gym and come watch. We'll have some good basketball in hand for you guys, and we hope to see everybody. You can visit the website at OhioValleyHoopsClassic.com. You can also check us out on all the social media, especially Twitter. Benny's been posting some things on the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic page. I've been retweeting them a lot, and we hope to see everybody there. So, guys, that was Bennie Carroll from the Ohio Valley Hoops Classic, also a veteran of the high school coaching scene. For Jason Moore, I'm Corey Albertson, and thank you for listening to the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.